To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Zebney.
Mrs. Denny? Mrs. Ellis?
Here.
Mr. Hampton? Dr. Huber? Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Mancinelli? Here. Mr. Seashot?
Here.
Mr. Twistler?
Here.
Mr. Armour?
Mr. Armour? It's a roll call, Mr. Armour.
My motion is to approve the minutes of the May 2022-24 board meeting. Should I have this motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sorry. All right, next is 2.02 invoice listing. The motion is to approve the invoice listing for May through June of 2024. Do I have this motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Next is the treasurer's report. Mr. Zebley?
As of April 30th, 2024, Pendelco's balance was $41,989,201. During May 2024, local, state, and federal revenues totaled $5,093,094. Disbursements were issued in the amount of $5,654,107. As of May 31st, 2024, Pendelco's current balance is $41,428,189. The motion is to approve the treasurer's report for May 2024. Do I have this motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. 2.04 is the budget transfer report. The motion is to approve the budget transfer report for May through June of 2024. Do I have this motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Announcements for the public?
I'd like to note that the board meeting that was scheduled for Wednesday the 26th is canceled. The board is conducting all of its business for June this evening. We properly advertised that, but for the record, we will not be meeting in June. Next meeting will be in July.
Thank you. Tonight, the board met in executive session to discuss all personnel and litigation matters. Comments by members of the board? Comments?
Steph, I do have something. So, Dr. Sanoff, I think I sent you a picture of the school sign out front. I asked them, it looks amazing. Finally, everything's cohesive, so we're there, and it looks really good.
No, thanks, Mr. Hefton. I know Aspinall Memory Community for some time has said to us, hey, we're part of that Pendelco family. Can we get that nice blue Pendelco sign? And it is up there. It does look great on Concord Road, that's for sure. You know, but thank you. I'm glad. I understand some people have kids' pictures taken next to it as well too when they were graduating from kindergarten and 5th grade. So yeah, we're happy that's up. I agree. It looked great.
Good to see it. I will say graduation was great. Another great event. Congratulations to our team of parents. It was only you tonight. All right, anybody else? Okay, items for board information and discussion. 5.01 school board policies. We have first reading for adoption, review, retirement, and revised policies. Looking at policy number 713 for the video camera surveillance.
Yes, and this policy will establish some clarity on when parents have access to video footage that the district may be in possession of. Video footage is an educational record, so there are some rights, but there are also some limitations and protections for other students that we want to keep in mind. This gives clarity on what parents can have and cannot have, and also some direction for our administrators.
Anybody have any questions or concerns? 5.02 is the elementary science curriculum recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Yep. Over here.
So, thank you for this time. I'm actually speaking on behalf of Dr. Murray, our elementary curriculum supervisor. She would have been here, but she is on a well-deserved vacation, so I told her not to leave the beach up here. So, she's done a lot of great work, and here for our elementary curriculum recommendation for purchase for next year. It's been I've got it 2 years in coming, a lot of research 2 years ago into this year. We actually got to the pilot phase. And the why is STEEL standards. We've been talking to the school board about STEEL's coming and full adoption. PD is recommending as July 1, 2025. So our recommendation is coming 1 year ahead of that. Just to give you maybe something interesting, this actually science standards have not been updated since 2002 in Pennsylvania. And Danny and I, Dr. Murray and I, were trying to figure out how long our science kits have been in place. Just like, I remember using those kits as a teacher. However, they were phenomenal, right? They really taught students the scientific method through a hands-on approach, which was a great program. But with STEEL's coming along, it is definitely time to make that shift. So our pilot teachers this year, we had a great representation from all our schools, all grade levels, and even had a principal. So I want to thank Trish, Georgia, Megan, Dana, Kelsey, Emily, and obviously Dr. Murray doing that work with these teachers, being part of the pilot program, getting their hands on this. So the process that we've gone through is basically Dr. Murray did a lot of homework with colleagues in the county and the region, across the state, trying to find the curriculum resource that would align with STEEL standards. And I'm just to refresh, STEEL standards is generated from Next Generation Science Standards, which is a national model. So just to keep that in mind, because we're going to talk about that in this process. So she was able to dwindle that down to 2 for her team and have her teachers pilot. And it came down to Twigs and the Smithsonian Science. And they were able to get their hands on that, digital access, and start to pilot that program. And the 4th step I really like what the team went through on this step here is that they did some training under Next Generation Science Standards, and not only to understand what those standards are when it comes to science and the expectations, but also how to assess programs, curriculum resources that best align to those standards. So they had to actually go through a five-column rubric that is done by Next Generation Standards. So they got trained on what are the foundations and the expectations. They got into what does student thinking look like under Next Generation Science Standards. How do you monitor progress of students? What type of supports? And then also, how is it aligned with the standards? So once they got trained in that, they actually had to conduct a rating of that at their pilot team. So talking to Dr. Murray on this one, I actually had to ask her in this phase. All right, so Twigs came ahead. So Twigs is what the pilot team and our elementary team are recommending, although it is close, but Twigs is much, much higher. So this is the quantitative information. I did ask her, what is this out of? 1,000? How far are we off? 10,000 points? It actually is only out of 900. Actually, about 86% was alignment and meeting the Next Generation Science Standards, which again is the best aligned through our STEEL standards that you can get. So anecdotally, I would say Twigs, you would hear things from teachers. They love the digital component. Less teacher prep. All right, so that's something we want to definitely consider. Super important for our teachers. They don't have a lot of time, so that is an important factor. I've heard the term by them saying it's a turnkey type program. Also, it is aligned to PSSAs. It comes with additional differentiated supports like EL and special education support components. Again, a strong alignment with STEELs directly, and they just really like the way it's organized and able to implement in a time frame. So that's just some anecdotal information from our pilot team. So Twigs is the recommendation. So we are planning on professional development. We do have targeted time for next year to make that happen and kick off the year very early in the fall. And again, you do have the proposal on this. It is on the board agenda. you're touching 6th grade levels, 4 different elementary schools, about 1,400 students with this curriculum program. And I would say, you're looking at probably a 7, 9, expectation that this curriculum program will be around. You may have to make some tweaks, about 3 to 5 years, to make some supplementals, purchases or supports down the road as we learn more about STEELS, because it is very new to us, and making sure that we're aligned with the new science expectations. Just so you know, 25-26 will begin the first year the PSSA is happening in 5th grade. We actually go through a pilot phase next year in 4th grade, and then they actually will roll it up into the 5th grade. So they will start that year taking the new STEELS PSSA exam in 5th grade. So right now they take it in 4th. So that'll be a shift for not only our teachers, but our students as well. So that said, I'll address any questions that you may have. Now I'm going to shift gears.
Dr. Kamika, while you're queuing that up, I do want to acknowledge the work that Dr. Kamika and Dr. Murray do to ensure that we really get feedback from our staff on these decisions. I see the meetings that happen in the admin building at our conference. The teachers come over after school and they talk it through. They share feedback. Throughout this year, I've been stopping down talking to Dr. Murray. There was a time where she was like, I think we're going to go with Smithsonian. I don't know, but I really like Twiggs, and go back and forth. And it's just putting it in the hands of our teachers, asking them to give it a shot, give us feedback, and really keep an open mind. So what you hate as a teacher is to be on a committee where a decision's already been made. And I appreciate what Dr. Murray and Dr. Kamika do, which is to really go into it with an open mind and say, help us make the best decision. And so I generally don't question much that they bring to our attention, because they really vetted it quite well.
Thank you. Yes, we definitely have a lot of trust in our elementary team. They do a great job, take it super serious, and they're very, very thorough. They put the time in. So shifting gears into school safety and security, school board report. Once a year, this report has to be done as required by the state, and as your school safety and security coordinator, I'm the one to get to deliver that tonight. So I am going to cover, it's nice, it's a double-edged sword, no pun intended over here, but spotlighting school safety here is nice to have, because it is super, super important. And I have to give our accolades to our staff and our staff teams. We have school safety teams, we have risk assessment teams, our principals, our teachers, all the support staff that we have, our office staff, they really take school safety seriously. And one thing I learned a long, long time ago, before even getting in education, is that you need a safe learning environment if you're going to have a positive experience for your students. And that's academically, extracurriculars, community involvement. You need to have that safe learning environment first and foremost. So they do take it seriously. I'm going to go over the school safety and professional development requirements that are now going to be required based on Act 55. So I'm going to just give you a brief summary on Act 55 impacts. There's 3 best practices when you're talking about school safety. It's character and culture, detection and prevention, preparation and response, and also I'm going to give you an update on Navigate 360, which we had purchased and we're ready for full implementation next year. So Act 55 back in 2022 was signed into law, and it elevated the responsibilities, but I think the most thing, we knew the responsibilities were there, but from 2018, but what is brought to our attention was much more clarity. So as your school safety and security coordinator, I needed to attend 7 hours of training required. I attend other job-related training meetings each year, and therefore I successfully completed that back in February. And they do believe in a train-the-trainer model. So I'll talk to you a little bit about what that looked like. Our school employees are also expected to do training. So when you say school employees, it's not just our faculty. It's office staff, it's bus drivers, it's our head day custodian. So we need to think now differently about how we provide PD. We need to think about asynchronous technology that we can actually train 400 or 500 employees, maybe virtually or asynchronously. So that is something that we will be doing. I'll talk about some of those topics. Our risk assessment teams, they do need to be trained each year. And I'll talk about what that looks like, but that is something that is ongoing every single year. So I'll get into the training that I attended. Down the bullet list, I won't read through them all, but school safety security coordinators do have to be trained in those areas. Pennsylvania Department of Education contracted with REMS. REMS is Readiness and Emergency Management for Schools Technical Assistance Program. And they actually partner with folks like Department of Justice, FBI, Homeland Security, and obviously Department of Education. And what they are bringing in is outside expert and best practices to the education field. I know me as an educator, I'm not sure about our educators here tonight, but I didn't attend safety classes in my institution or four-year college, right? So when we get these level of training, the valuable information is super helpful. And what basically I went through, it was a development of emergency operation plans, EOPs, we're going to refer to them as. So they have 6 principles in place. Those 6 basically, you need to have leadership from our level, leadership at the building level. You need to assess your emergency operation procedures. So when you assess, we brought in Center for Safe Schools last year. We did assessment of culture. We did assessment of physical space as well. Our local police departments also assess our drills and how we conduct those drills. They assess our emergency operation procedures. They work with us to make sure that we have the best plan forward. So these are examples of what we need to do. But you need to take an all-hazards approach. So what that means is not just in what's happening inside the school or to the school. It could be within what's happening outside the community right down the road. Is there an emergency that maybe as the police department may have to put our school in to stay in place because there's something out in the community happening. So we have to have procedures and protocols in place around it. So that takes a lot of collaboration. That's pretty much the 6th principle that you have in place, not only with internal personnel, but also your local first responders. They basically have trained all the security coordinators in 6 steps, basically that you would put a collaboration team together at each school level, which we do. We have school safety teams that are in place. We work with local law enforcement, again, to create a plan under the circumstance. So that could be an evacuation to a fire drill. It could be a stay in place. You have to understand the situation, you develop your goals, you develop your plan, you approve the plan, and then you actually start to do the implementation of those procedures. So we do a lot of that. That's why you'll hear us do evacuation, you'll hear lockdown drills that we do. Those are all required by the state. So those are the trainings that all security coordinators across the state are receiving. That's the work we will be doing continuously each year with schools so they can revise and update and monitor their EOPs. Okay. So this brings me to all school employees. Now they are required to do 3 hours of training. One of those can be in person, and that's the one we usually frame out to be our emergency operation trainings. But the other 2 are asynchronous. And here are just some of the topics. And again, I'll forward this PowerPoint to the school board so you have a copy of it so you can see some of the descriptors under each one. But we will need to train all staff over 5 years, but it can be any one of these topics, maybe, and we want to customize it to the needs of your community. PDE did partner with, as you can see, Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. They basically are creating asynchronous content for us to access for all our school employees. And again, I just want to say that you're going to have to move all school employees to some type of asynchronous platform to get them trained up on these topics. So you see these 3 here, but I'd say trauma-informed approaches, our staff for the past 2 years, we spent a lot of time within that work, really important work that we've done, and we definitely checked that box. But so some of the topics we have moving forward, we're going to have to touch on. The other 3 are bullying awareness, suicide awareness, and that's where bullying awareness is not just in school, right? It's also cyber as well. And therefore, the more we equip and train our staff, the more we're able to better support our students and help them as well. And then you'll see suicide awareness is super important for all employees, and then substance abuse awareness. A lot of this is like understanding the signs and symptoms, and then knowing how to tie that student to a better support. On the other side, it's also sometimes, when we look at mental health, it's also not just the students, but it's also each other, the adults, yourself, and it's part of that training that they will get as we take them through that over the next 5 years. So I do want to give you an update on Navigate 360. So this year we've done a lot of onboarding with IT, our facilities director, because there's a mapping component. So each building has been mapped out. So I talked a little bit about how we're going to be sharing information with local police departments. They'll be able to see that information. But next year will be full implementation of those EOPs, and our risk assessments can go online. So this is Navigate's pyramid, right? So their best practices would say that you need 3 areas: culture, and character, detection and prevention, preparation and response. Let me just touch on those. So you've been hearing all throughout the year, each one of our schools and the principals talking about how much work they put in around culture and climate. And I have to give them accolades. They truly take that work super serious, and that's why they get recognized in state and national recognitions like PBIS, Schools to Watch, Schools of Character, Green Ribbon. Every school, K-12, we have positive behavior interventions and supports, teams, and I will say teams, but there are tiered interventions that our principals, our teachers, our staff teams, our IEP teams, 504 teams, counselors, psychologists, 8 home school visitor, lakeside counselors, all working and helping support students who may need social emotional support. As you heard from a lot of this, every school that you've heard from is talking about community involvement. Super important to have good partnerships between home and school, our PTLs, our extracurricular activities, and opportunities for our students to do things that they're super interested in, talented in, and have passions for. And again, the last one I just stress again, I know I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again, our schools absolutely take it super serious, and they really work on those drills. They take them serious, they revise them, they open for feedback from local police departments, and this all really supports a culture of, all, not just the students, but also staff and families feeling safe here in their schools. Second category, risk assessments. That's that middle level. That's that detection and prevention. So our risk assessment teams have been in place since 2018. I'll start in the center. So we are shifting to online. So we did get a 2-year grant, which is phenomenal, through Center for Safe Schools. And we were able to go to online through Navigate 360 free of charge due to that grant, but also the training that comes with that over the next 2 years. It is involved, but our risk assessment team is comprised of principals, counselors, and school psychologists. And I want to thank the school board. Over the past 2 years, we've added a school psychologist, and we've added 2 counselors. And this work is definitely super important, and they can really jump right into this training. So just a great support system here. The comprehensive school threat assessment training they will get is something that they get every year, but this year they're going to get it through Navigate 360. It's 7 hours of training. It is involved, 3 hours asynchronous, and then there'll be a 4-hour in person. They'll also have 2 hours of suicide awareness and prevention. So when you think of threat assessments, a threat assessments is a violence prevention strategy. The whole idea is to identify early, evaluate early, and help intervene early. So you can head it off very early on in the phases. So that is an element that our staff will be, our risk assessment teams will be trained in. As far as suicide assessment training, they will also be trained in that. This will just increase our team members significantly in knowledge on suicide and how to prevent strategies, make sure we're protecting the well-being immediately, but also long term. And then there's a picture of Safe to Say in Pennsylvania. There's Safe to Say, that's not end up, but that's a statewide reporting system. I have to say our students, I have to give them accolades as well, because our students really look after each other. When they report, they may be anonymous, sometimes it's not, but most of the time that is an anonymous reporting tool that we promote in our schools that they can do. And when they do that, they're concerned. They're concerned for their friends, they're concerned for their classmates, and our risk assessment teams take that information and they go to work to make sure they intervene. So the final tier is that preparation response, that top tier for Navigate 360, is that we're going to be going to our EOPs on and be using them on Navigate 360. So the benefits, internal and external communication for sure. We'll be able to have another mechanism to alert staff to execute some type of emergency drill. Not necessarily, if you can't get access to an intercom, this is another avenue that we can actually signal, because you can signal right to a teacher's laptop, through email. If they, also on their cell phone, they would actually get a signal, a sound signal, that there was an emergency that they had to pay attention to go on. So the way we think about it, sometimes staying in place, we have to get on the intercom, we have to announce it. Maybe the kids don't necessarily need to hear that because it really wasn't that significant an issue, but you may be able to alert, especially if you think about elementary students, you just alert them through this mechanism. It's a good internal communication. I mentioned the mapping. A lot of our local police departments, their feedback is we need to get into the school, we need to understand, we need to get new officers, we need to understand where rooms are, where the office is, etc. All our mapping is done, and we can give them view access to all our EOPs, but also the mapping mechanisms in place. That picture on that screenshot on the right that you see is basically like a sneak peek of what you would see on your phone or even on your computer, laptop as an end user. So you could literally pull that up and click on evacuation. It tells you everything that the administrators to do, staff members to do in that situation, in that emergency. So we'll have those in place. We'll have hard copies, but also they would have it on the computer and cell phone. And do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Dr. Kaminga. And that'll, if Ms. Claus can mention for the record that the board was presented with a school safety review in executive session as well as a regular session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaminga. Do you have any comments by members of the public? All right, so I'd like to put a motion for consent, got ahead of myself. Items for board action, we have 7.01, starting on page 2, going through page 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 7.02. Alright, so the motion is to approve 7.01 through 7.02, which references the PennDelco budget 2023-2024, PennDelco budget 2024-2025, Act 93 plans, the PDEA agreement, the PDESPA agreement, the PDSSPA agreement, PA School Code Section 1108B. It is the administrative recommendation to approve all personnel items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Then I would like to propose a motion to approve a consent agenda for items 7.03 through 7.25.
So moved.
One thing. All those in favor?
Aye.
And all those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. So the last two agenda items here is 7.26, the final budget for 2024-2025. The proposed final budget for 2024-2025 was adopted on April 24th, 2024, and has been really advertised for adoption. The motion is to approve the 2024-25 general fund budget at $75,412,894, and the setting of the tax rate at 19.987 mils for 2024 to 2025. Do I have this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. 7.27 is the PDEA collective bargaining agreement. The motion is to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the PennDelco Educational Association and the PennDelco School District effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027 as presented. Do I have this
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Great. Comments by members of the public?
Good evening. I'm Sherry Freeman, PDEA Secretary and PennDelco District Librarian. On behalf of Nicole Armbruster, PDEA President, myself as a member of the negotiations team. Thank you, members of the school board and administration, for your work and collaboration throughout the contract negotiation process. The approval of this new contract shows your support for our educators, students, and community. This agreement not only reflects our mutual commitment to fostering a supportive and equitable work environment, but also underscores the vital role that teachers play in shaping the future of our society. Together, we have demonstrated that through open dialogue and partnership, we can achieve outcomes that benefit everyone. Thank you for your support and commitment to our educators and students. Thank you. Anybody else?
Okay. Comments by members of the board?
So I just wanted to say to everybody, thank you for a great school year. I have a student at each level, and I thought it was pretty good, just great school year all around. From the start to the awards banquet, which I was able to attend briefly because we had a fire at the shop, and that leads me to my next thing. Everybody reached out from the school district, and it was pretty overwhelming. The outreach, Aston Elementary, student government, some of the teachers did a fundraiser, so it was very nice, and I appreciate that. And at the same point, I'd also like to mention recognition of Linda Murphy, who's retiring from Aston. So she was a big Ambrosio's customer too. And just one final point. So it was a rough day, but it gets better every day. And we were at Springfest for Aston Elementary, and one of the prizes was pizza with the principal with Miss Phillips. And my 5th grade son, who's my biggest character, pointed out to me that I guess we know which pizza shop we won't be getting pizza from for this. So thank you to everybody, and thank you all for a great school year. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Stephanie, for guiding us through our June meeting. You filled in wonderfully for our president, who was off for work. Thank you. Great job, Jen.
I also wanted to add very nice graduation ceremony. It's always a pleasure to attend that. It was a very nice affair, and congratulations to all the seniors moving on to either the workforce or college or military service, but it was just a really nice event, and thank you for a great school year, and I hope everybody, hope all the teachers enjoy their summer as well.
Yeah, I want to echo those sentiments and thank the board for the support this year. This was my 16th year being fortunate enough to lead this wonderful district. And it really, I look back as one of the better ones. I mean, this was just really a fantastic year across the board with achievements in the arts, in athletics, academics for sure, the growth of our activities. But what I was most impressed with was the student-first culture in our schools. Our teachers worked so hard this year, and they've really done a lot of remediation for kids that still were falling a little bit behind in COVID. Kind of moved out of that kind of dark period. And the buildings were happier places. Teachers were working hard. We've got a great management team in place. We have wonderful staff of employees. It just felt like there was really a lot of pent-up pride this year for really good reasons. And that was encapsulated in that graduation, that 2024 class, which is a favorite of mine. It was a really special night, so I'm glad. I appreciate the board members pointing out that it was a great graduation, and the high school did a phenomenal job with that. On the agenda this evening, I do want to point out my thanks to Mr. Zebley on his work on the budget. I see what it takes behind the scenes to actually put together a budget that's going to be approved by the board, and a wise budget at that supports our district, but also considers the fact that it is taxpayers that are funding the schools. And he begins that process as early as October, and it just goes on and on and on with a lot of analysis. And it's an excellent, it's a very fair budget, so we had no problem bringing this to the board. We appreciate your support. Thank you, Mr. Zebley. And on the collective bargaining agreement with our Teachers Association, so we have one with our support staff, and thank the board for that. We did that last month, and now our professional teaching staff. And thank you to Dr. Piscola and Mr. Zebley as well. And I know we have 4 representatives who represent the teachers. A lot of evenings, a lot of meetings, a lot of hours. As a superintendent, it's interesting because you are pulling for your teachers, but you're also pulling for the board and the community. And this is a contract that I think is really fair for all parties. And we wanted a contract that's going to reward our teachers, ensure that they feel valued, help us attract and retain teachers, without at the same time being fiscally responsible. and this contract does that. And it took a lot of work by all the parties at the table. And I was really pleased to see that this is in place. I appreciate the board supporting it, and it will help with, or certainly the morale as the school year starts when teachers come back in September. So, we'll have a very busy summer. We're already planning our management team for July. We're always starting to think about our kickoff with our staff members when they come back. But we do have some downtime, and we're going to take advantage of that and make sure that we're ready to go for the 24-25 school year. Thank you for a real good one.
Dr. Sano, free close out. John, did you have a legislative update? You guys didn't hear?
Yeah, we'll work on that next week, because the meeting's actually fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Great meeting. Thanks for your confidence and future meeting. Like, great for a month. Next meeting is Wednesday, July 24th. It's a business meeting, Service Center here at 7:30.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned. What's that?
So moved.
Motion to-
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second.